It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, welcome to the TradeMate Sports Betting Podcast, a betting preview of UFC 264 headlined by Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, number 3. As always, please send through any questions, comments you have on anything we're saying today, or basically just throw in whatever you like. Big day today on the channel. We're going to be going live in just under 2 hours with the final Euros final preview between Italy and England. So if you're into live streams, if you're into me, then you're going to be seeing a lot of me. So hope you enjoy that, and good to see you too, AJ Sports Bets. Today I'm joined on the top right of your screen, pro sports bettor Jonas Gjelstad, and at the bottom of your screen, smart sports trader, ex MMA fighter. How are we, gents?
Awesome, man. Ready for it to come back home, you know. We're using all the dirty tricks now in the book that you can. Like when you manage to even convince VAR that it's a penalty, I think you're doing a pretty good job, and I think it's time.
I love how you just act like all of a sudden you're English, mate. We can tell by your accent you're not English.
Well, I've been living 10 years now straight in the UK, or in England, so
yeah, you
feeling
could have a citizenship if you wanted. Yeah, you know, you could adopt us if you want. Yeah,
you're a disgrace, mate. You're a disgrace. I guess I do support Sweden every now and then, and I've lived there for like 2 weeks, so I guess I'm not too much better, mate. All right. Gents, today we're going to go through like literally every fight on this UFC card. Just about, we're probably going to miss about 3 or 4 of them, so we might as well get straight into it. UFC quiz question for the week is: Dustin Poirier won his first 3 fights in the UFC. Name one of those opponents that he beat. For those who already know the answer, please wait to the end of the stream if you want to send in your answers. But if not, we will. It's pretty. I mean, I wouldn't be able to get this one right, but we'll get to the answer at the back end of the stream. And just before we get into things today, a quick disclaimer on the video. As always, I or no one else on this YouTube channel is a financial advisor. This is just educational content aimed at improving your sports betting. There is a risk of losing money on betting, funny enough, and what choices you make with your money is completely up to you. So please be responsible. All right, who wants to kick things off? Maybe we go to you first, Ryan. Why don't we go to, let me have a look here. Why don't we go with Irene Aldana versus Yana Kunitskaya?
Yeah, so I've got a bet on Yana Kunitskaya here. I got odds of 2.18 on Betfair, and I think on Betfair it's kind of hovering about 2.1, something like that. But yeah, Aldana's coming in. She's coming in on the back of a loss to Holly Holm. I think we probably covered this on a podcast. She's one of the better athletes in the division. She moves quite well. She's got natural power in her hands, and she's got good boxing, but she can be very one-dimensional. She basically just looks to box. She doesn't really implement a ton of grappling. She'll throw out the odd leg kick, but she's pretty much boxing centric. And what she has struggled with in the past is decent grapplers and people that can engage in the clinch with her. And that's what Yana Kunitskaya is very good at. That's probably like her best attribute. She's very good in the clinch. She's quite big for that weight class as well. She's got really good knees. She can hold her own in the striking. She's not at the level that Aldana is. But you get very few knockouts in the women's division. Although Aldana did knock out Ketlen Vieira, I just think it's a close fight, and I just think with women's fights, if you've got one woman that's got like quite a big grappling edge or a decent grappling edge, I'm normally going to back that side. So yeah, that's why I like Kunitskaya here. So if you can get her at anything above 2.1, I'd be pretty happy to take that.
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, most books here haven't got Kunitskaya at that number, but yeah, I mean, I guess people can just keep an eye out for it and see Yeah, maybe Pinnacle will end up at 2.1 or above, and yeah, I guess it's just one to keep an eye on. Maybe there's obviously a few books here that I haven't got on my screen, so yeah, definitely keep an eye on that one. Jonas, mate, I'm not going to try pronounce the fighter's name that you want to cover here, but we've got Jerome Rivera and Zhalgas.
How was this?
Zhalgas Zhumagulov.
Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Sorry, I just went into Kazakh, and I think it's from Kazakhstan, so try to get the right pronunciation. So Zhalgas, I think he's always been a good fighter. He's always been able to last for the 3 rounds he's been fighting. He's been losing his last 2 fights on decision, which I feel like is kind of been a robbery. He is a decision fighter usually, and the price on him winning is like 1.3. Price on him winning by decision 183. But the Rivera guy has not been impressive at all, and I feel like Zhalgas has been having a lot of power in his strikes, and if Rivera is not going to defend himself better than he has been in the UFC this far, he's going to get knocked out, and the price of a knockout is going to be sorry,
I can get it up for you, mate, if you like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Still, you can get 6 at Paddy Power.
Yeah, 6 would be insane.
5.5 in most, but you're talking about Zhumagulov, aren't you?
Yeah. So
for
those prices, I just would have to go for those, and I don't see him ever winning by submission. So if you were to bet that and put in a decision bet at 183, you're going to be looking at a price of him winning, which is far greater than the boring 133 if you want to be hedging off a bit. But it's not the most exciting bet, and the fact it's a long shot, of course, when you can get prices as high as 5. But with the power he obtains, I think it could be some value there, and the fact that he has never had a knockout in the UFC tend for me to lean more that way rather than the decision bet.
Nice. Are you concurring, nodding there, Ryan? You like that one?
Yeah, I like it. It's a good bet.
All right, there we go. He's got the tick of approval from the big man. Gents, I'm going to throw my little hat in the ring here. I'm going to go and talk a little bit about Alen Amedovski versus Yaozong. Unfortunately, this is a similar case to what we just experienced with Ryan's bet, and the odds have come. I want to back, or I have backed Yaozong, and I backed him at 2.3, but it looks like that one has come in. I don't think most people probably don't know that Yaozong, he used to be a heavyweight, then he went down to light heavyweight, and now this fight is at middleweight. So he should be much bigger than Amedovski, who's he's not even really a middleweight. Like, he probably could, I think he has fought at welterweight, or at least I feel like he could get down there. So there's going to be a huge size discrepancy here. And I think the odds are where they are, or maybe where they were, because of their records. Like, Yaozong's got a 3-2 record. And I think I can't remember Amedovski's record, but it's obviously much better than that. Yaozong hasn't fought for a couple of years. He's quite young in his career. I think he's still in his early 20s. So I think he should have gotten a lot better since his last fight, which was against Couture. Whereas Alen is 35 now, and to be honest, I don't think he's looked that great in the UFC. He was dominated by Jotko, and then he was knocked out very quickly by an English fighter. I can't remember his name.
John Phillips, it was a Welsh fighter.
Yeah. So the only thing is, I could see Amedovski outworking Yaozong, because Yaozong's cardio is not too great. But Yaozong, he's a tough bastard. I think he could take a few of his shots on the feet. And Yaozong's going to have the power advantage to his leg kicks are pretty ruthless. So I think you mentioned this to me, Ryan. The one question marks is USADA suspension, that he's just come off a 10-month USADA suspension. But just from reading, and there weren't too many articles, and I read one article about it, it seemed like it was one of those accidental kind of dietary accidents, if you know what I mean. So I'm happy to take the risk there, and obviously I don't know. I'd definitely take 2.25 and above if you can get that still. I saw Pinnacle was at 2.14 at the moment, so I'd be
Probably
happy
get
to take
2-2 on Betfair, I would have thought.
Yeah, sorry, I've got the odds up here. You can definitely get 2.2 in a few places. I'd probably still take that. I think 2.2 is definitely the lowest I'd go though. It's probably worth it at that price. That's me. Let's go over to you again, Ryan. We'll go Jennifer Maia and Jessica I.
Yeah, so we last saw Maia in a fight against Shevchenko, where she maybe gave Shevchenko one of her. I mean, it was still a pretty dominant win by Shevchenko, but kind of Maia held her own in some situations, and she even took a round off her. So she's coming in with a bit of momentum from that, and I kind of think you're seeing that in the betting lines. But previously, she's just kind of been a pretty solid fighter everywhere. She doesn't do anything spectacular. She's just, she's very physically strong. She's very durable. She's got decent boxing. She's got a decent ground game. And she should have an edge here, but I think the odds might be a little bit too wide in this fight. I mean, I's coming in off 2 losses to Joanne Calderwood and Cynthia Calvillo. But I think she'll have the speed advantage, and she's got slightly cleaner boxing on her feet as well. She's got, I think she's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and she's slightly taller as well. And Maia, although she does have the grappling advantage, she doesn't always push the grappling, so she might be quite happy to stand on her feet. So what I like, and the bet that I like is Jessica I by decision. I've seen that at 3.5 in a few places, and I just think it's a fight that could be very close. You always have that kind of dodgy judging as well, and I just think, eye shots might be a little bit more eye-catching. She likes to work that jab, so if we're getting extended periods on the feet and she can hold her own in the grappling and stuff, the takedowns, then I think she's got a good chance of taking a decision. So yeah, I think 3.5 is really good. If you can get better than that, I'd take it as well.
Oh, there we go. He threw in a little pun there too. I don't know if you all heard it. Sorry, eye catching. I heard that.
All right, there you go. Unintentional as well.
Oh, mate, he's too good, isn't he? All right, let's. I don't know if you wanted to talk about this one, Ryan, but Greg Hardy and Tai Tuivasa. Have you had a bet on this one, mate?
No, I've not bet it. I kind of had a look at it, but I've not. I've not kind of put anything down pre-match anyway.
Yeah, because I had a closer look at it yesterday, and I actually think the odds are reasonably accurate on it. I can get the odds up on the screen, so you can get about 1.75. I think you can get higher than that for Ty, and then Greg Hardy's about 2.2 best odds. I think they're pretty accurate, but I think, like you mentioned to me, I think it's a decent shout for a live bet here on Tuivasa if it goes past the first round. Actually, the other thing that I looked at was the over-under markets and the fight going the distance. The over-under markets were, I don't think they have it here. But here it is. Yeah, the lines that this is. I thought this was quite big in price. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this. But I saw you get under 1.5 rounds for I could find bigger than that at 2.5. Do you have any thoughts on that one, fellas, about that going under 1.5 rounds? Because I know Greg Hardy normally lasts about 1.5 rounds with his cardio, and Tai Tuivasa's fights are normally over pretty quick.
There's something else though, so you could look at for this fight. Again, this is not one of the most interesting trades, but Greg Hardy is 4 to win at decision, and I think that's way too low. So what you could do is you could Hardy to win by submission is 20 plus, which usually is also a sign that the real odds should be 60 or 40. So you could basically be betting Hardy KO, and you could be betting Tuivasa just to win straight up. It's, again, you're not going to be making a lot of money doing that, but you're basically just looking to fade the Hardy decision, which is very likely, I think, the way he's been fighting recently. He's either going to knock him out in the first round, or if he goes too hard and wins the first round, it's likely to see him gas in the second and third. But it's a bit of a punt and a different way to go on about things. So
I looked back the Hardy. Oh, what's the guy? The Polish fella. Is he Polish? Oh, Tybura. Fuck me. Have you ever seen a bloke with worse ground game than Greg Hardy? He was like a friggin' salmon on the ground, mate. He offered nothing. I wonder if, honestly, it's one of those ones where I go, Jesus, just try something, mate. Like, he just
I think he just quit, didn't he, in the fight?
Yeah.
That's the worrying thing with Hardy's. Like round one, he looked really, really good, but he's shown that he's got that quit in him, and when you back in fighters, it's if you know that somebody's got that quit in them, it's always going to be a question mark. So that's why I would, like we've kind of talked about previously, is maybe just watch how the first round goes, because Hardy could have an amazing first round where he looks really sharp, and Tuivasa is very durable, so he's probably going to take some big shots, and you might get like Tuivasa like odds are like 5 or 6 if he's been wobbled and hurt a bit. And that would be something to look at. It's a tough one with Hardy because he's obviously a top-level athlete, and his movement's very good for a heavyweight. But we've seen him just completely fold. So it's a tough one to call for me. It's why I'm just gonna wait for a live opportunity if one comes.
Because I thought originally going in, I thought the price on Tuivasa was maybe a little bit too big, and I was thinking of backing him. But then I watched the Hardy fight back in that round one against Tybura, and I was like, he's made some decent progress in his striking there. The problem for me is in backing Tuivasa. I think both these fighters are kind of on the up. I'm not going to say like one day they're going to be the world champs or anything like that, but I think they're improving with every fight, and you just kind of wonder like, who's made the biggest improvement since their last fight. Like Greg Hardy hasn't fought since last year, which is actually quite rare for him, because ever since he's been in the UFC, he's kind of fought every 2 or 3 months. So maybe he's, stepped back for 6 months and really gone to work after a terrible performance or a terrible second round against Tybura. So that was kind of what makes me want to stay away from this one. But I could see either of these fighters just coming out and knocking one or the other out within the first round. And then, you could see, the old Hardy gas tank failing after a round. So, yeah, I think, like you said, Ryan, I just wanted to highlight this one because I think it's a good live bet scenario. And I really do. I thought the odds would be a little bit closer on that under and over 1.5 rounds. But, yeah, maybe that's something to keep an eye on. It's one of those things that Hardy kind of normally gasses towards the end of round 2. So I think I looked yesterday, you could get, for the fight not to make it into round 3, I think you could get like 1.75 at some books. So maybe that's something people want to look at too. But I don't think I have any definite pick there. Why don't we move on back to you, Ryan? Why don't we go Ilia, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's first name. Ilia Topuria versus Ilia Topuria versus Ryan Hall.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this fight. It should be a good one. Like, we've not seen Hall fight for a while. He's very unconventional. He's won 4 fights in a row. He's beat BJ Penn, Gray Maynard. I can't remember the other 2, but he's Darren Elkins was the last one. So he's a high-level jiu-jitsu guy. Basically, he's got some like really high credentials in jiu-jitsu, and you can tell because he's not afraid to fall into his guard. He's been working on his kicking game. Apparently, I saw they've been working with Wonder Boy a bit, and you can kind of see that in the style of his kicks. He's not afraid to throw like spinning wheel kicks and and then just flop to his back because he doesn't mind guys getting in his guard. So yeah, he's a very like strange fight to watch because there's nobody really like him. But Topuria is 10-0. He looks like a real prospect. He fights with a very high intensity, high output, like a really good work rate. He worked the body really well in his last fight. He's got good boxing. He's got good grappling. He mixes in everything really well. But the bet that I like is to take Ryan Hall inside the distance. I just really don't see him winning a decision here with Topuria's work rate and striking. And you're getting him at odds of like 3.2, I think, on the money line. So if you can get him to, finish the fight inside the distance at 5, that's really good. I mean, I got his submission earlier on in the week, Hall by submission at 7.5, but that's come right in. And just as I say, with his kind of kicking game, if he does land one of them kicks, then he could put Topuria out. So I think, the best you can get sub is at 6 now. So you can get inside the distance at 5. So I'd probably just take that just in case.
Yeah. It's such a hard fight to judge, isn't it? Because Hall's just like the weirdest fighter, isn't he? Like basically runs away from people, and all he really has in his arsenal is just these like crazy kicks, and then he just jumps on your leg every minute, basically.
Roll for leg locks and
the Imanari roll. Like it's such a weird fighter to judge. But yeah, I also got Hall at submission at 7.5, which is just a ludicrous price. I think I'd still take Hall by submission at like maybe 5.5 or above, maybe 5.5 and above. I still think like the thing with Topuria is, mate, he looks sensational, doesn't he? But he's still in his early 20s. He's very he kind of rushes things a lot. Like I think he's patient and picks his right moments to go in. But he's facing Ryan Hall. Like there's no chance he's seen anything like this before. So the fact that he's still young and hasn't spent too much time in the octagon, I think if you can get those big prices on Hall by submission or inside the distance, like you said, I think it's definitely worth the bet. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you.
Yeah, I could see him going to the ground with Hall. I mean, he's like, he's never lost a fight. He's 10-0. He is a good grappler himself. I mean, so him, and at that age when you're that young as well, he might be a bit overzealous and think, right, he keeps going down. I'm gonna, make him pay for it, and then Hall might snatch a leg up. So it's just, I really don't, I very rarely see Hall winning this fight by decision. So I think if you are going to play him, you should just take the submission or the inside the distance prop, because that's where the value is, in my opinion.
Yeah, he does love to run away. So it's just like, it never looks good on the judges' scorecard, does it? All right, Jonas, you have any thoughts on that one, mate?
No, nothing to add.
Yeah, thanks, mate. A great comment here from Limerick for Liam. He says, the boom is back. Not sure McGregor has many fans left in Ireland. Could be a good fighter. Is there any bet builders for someone pissed watching this fight? I doubt they'd offer a market for that one, mate. I think I think that market's already been settled. That's a.
I think it just means like a mug bet, doesn't he? Doesn't he just mean like he's going to be pissed watching the fight and he just wants like a silly bet, basically?
Oh, sorry, mate. I thought
that's the way I read it, anyway.
Yeah, and maybe you're
if you want silly bets, well, we're probably going to cover this fight later, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think so, mate. I don't know. I was thinking of skipping it, but I thought, some people probably want to hear
well,
about it.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to do it right now or later.
I love that. The stream titles UFC 264 McGregor vs Poirier. We're not going to talk about that fight, though. We're going to talk about it.
You understand what I mean now, right? I wasn't sure if you want to speak about it right now or later. Jesus.
Oh, he's an angry.
Why don't you speak about unicorns again?
That's the real main event, isn't it?
Oh, mate. Imagine. I think Saka should walk out on Sunday night on a unicorn.
Should be carried. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, another fight that I would love to talk about is Michel Pereira versus Niko Price. I think Pereira is much more technical. He's a weird fighter, isn't he? Like, he could come out and do some backflips and stuff, but I think the last
they both are.
I mean, have you seen
they
Price
both
do
are
backflip?
No, of course not. But they're both super unconventional and unpredictable. This is going to be like one of the highlights of the evening for me.
Yeah, it must be favourite to be fight of the night, or at least close to it. I mean, obviously you got Poirier and McGregor on there, but it must be close to fight of the night honours. But I still think Pereira is much more technical. I think he's a better striker if he's focused. And I think the last two fights he's been a lot more focused, especially that win over Chaos Williams. He was very patient, I would say, against a guy who can basically end your night in any second. I don't really see this going to the ground unless someone is I think Price is very easy to hit. He got lit up a few times. Not lit up, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but he got hit pretty regularly by an aging Cowboy Cerrone last year. And yeah, like I said, I think Pereira's been a lot more patient on the feet lately, and I think he could either catch Price coming in. Maybe Price gets a little bit frustrated that he can't touch him as much as he wants to, and finish Price, or I could see Pereira winning by decision, just outpointing him for 3 rounds. So you can get 1 point, or I don't know if you can anymore. I'll get up the odds on my screen. It's not too many bookmakers offer this market, but
What are you looking for?
Pereira to win by KO or points. Here it is. Yeah, so you can get 1.83 on Paddy Power. I got 1.88 at Ladbrokes earlier in the week, so I'd be more than happy to take this. Take those odds. I'd take 1.8 and above, I think, for Pereira by KO or points. I think the only thing that kind of worried me about him getting the submission was if he rocked Price and then jumped on a submission. But I think he's more inclined to go for the knockout here. Anyone got any thoughts on that one?
I like that.
I like Pereira too, but it's like you said, it's a very unpredictable fight. Nobody really knows what's gonna happen here. Niko Price definitely has the power to knock Pereira out if Pereira gets too cocky or anything like that. I still prefer Pereira at the prices. Let me just do some quick math there.
I watched Dusko Todorovic versus Michel Pereira. I think that's the only time Pereira's been knocked out, maybe, or I think it was the only time. That was a weird one. Have you seen that fight, Ryan? It didn't really seem like Dusko caught him. Yeah, I don't think he caught him with much. It almost because it was in Serbia, I think. It almost seemed like it might have been one of those weird fixed fights. I mean, it's a bit of an allegation, but it just looked like a weird finish, that one.
Yeah,
I've heard other people say that as well.
It was just it didn't seem like the shot he caught him with was all that hard, but I looked at another angle. I was like, oh, maybe it's fair enough that he went down. But yeah, anyway, sorry, Jonas.
So to go over your bet that you said you'd liked Pereira by decision or KO at 183, compared to betting him at 162, which I think is like what most books is priced at right now. You're basically saying I want to bet Pereira to win, but I also at the same time would lay him winning with submission at 14, which I do think is a bit too long for Pereira in this fight because it's so unpredictable. You can easily knock him down and just finish him. Like Niko Price is not going to go out without the lights being out, so it might be a very easy way for this fight to be finished by a submission due to how much of a chin he got, in my opinion.
Yeah. So did you? Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to give me some whiz bang, like a way to approach it instead of going for the double chance.
Well, I just said I just don't think you should go for the double chance because of it's basically like you're laying Pereira to win submission to the price of 14, which I do think is a bit too long for this. That's my opinion. Maybe like you guys have other opinions. But I think I much prefer just to go straight up for this one because of the price difference being as it is, like 7% extra. Like I think he has more than 7% chance of winning by submission, Pereira.
Yeah, I guess this is just like it was something that I thought long and hard about because he hasn't got too many submissions on his record, and the only way I saw him getting a submission was if he rocked him. So. I don't know.
I think that's very likely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess this is down to opinion, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. What do you think, Ryan? We need a ref to step in.
I don't have any bets on this fight. It's just like you say. It's Niko Price is a strange fighter. He's a bit of an anomaly, really, because he can find just strange KOs from anywhere, and then Pereira is just liable to do something crazy as well. I mean, I looked at fight ends inside the distance, and I think that was about 1.57, which I thought, given the styles of the two guys, possibly could have had some value, but I don't really like betting like lower odds for fights ending inside the distance. So I'm just going to enjoy this one. You know, it's going to be a good fight. It's two guys that, you know, are very unpredictable. And yeah, I mean, you can get Niko priced to win by KO at like 4, and that seems more likely. Like, I don't see him winning a decision too often, just because Pereira's a little bit sharper. I think he's got a better kicking game. He's got the better movement. So if I would, you know, if you were looking at backing price, which I don't think anyone is, that I'd probably rather take him by KO than straight up. If you can get above 4 or 4 itself, I think that's not bad.
All right.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff, fellas. The last one I wanted to talk about before the 2 last fights was Brad Tavares and Omari Akhmedov. Did you end up having a bet here, Ryan? I know we were talking about it earlier in the week.
No, I didn't, mate. No, I can stay away from this one.
Yeah. I think this was just another one I wanted to highlight as I think a good live betting opportunity. I think Akhmedov's cardio is pretty poor, and Tavares' takedown defense is pretty solid. He did very well against Carlos Jr. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Because I could see Akhmedov maybe taking him down a couple of times at the start of the fight here, but I think Tavares is pretty hard to keep down, and his cardio, I think, is much superior. Sorry. So yeah, I'm leaning towards a live bet on Tavares after round 1. If you know, Omari edges it with his wrestling in round 1 and, you know, expends a lot of energy, because Tavares, if you can keep it on the feet, his striking is much better than Omari. He's pretty wingy with his punches, and I know that, you know, Tavares could get caught, but I would like to think that Tavares is a lot more technical and can keep him off him. So my only other worry about this was just Omari holding him up against the fence, maybe, because Tavares did get stuck there a couple of times against Junior. But I think because his cardio is just much better, that he can maybe get out of those situations. We'll see. It'll be a good watch, that one. And that's towards the start of the card. But let's get into the co-main event, fellas. Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Thompson. A wonderful matchup here in terms of styles. Makes for a really interesting fight here. You have, let me just share my screen. You got Wonder Boy at about 1.67, and Gilbert Burns you can get as high as 2.4 actually on Red Zone and Sport Nation there, but most bookies have him below that. I'll go to you first on this one, Jonas. How do you? I mean, the thing about this fight is that the styles are just very very different. So how do you see each person kind of implementing their game plan?
Well, it's pretty obvious, right? Stephen Thompson wants to just dominate them, the land, and he will have a much higher output than Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns wants to try to take Thompson down. I don't know if he's going to be successful. Like, Thompson has been impressive, and his last fight, he really impressed me with the speed and accuracy he was having. I don't like Gilbert Burns. He got knocked out by Usman, but Usman is he used to be more of a decision fighter, but he seems to kind of wanted to prove himself, also being able to knock people out. So I don't know how much to read into that, but I do feel like Stephen Thompson is going to be able to land harder strikes than what Gilbert Usman was able to land. The question is just, is Burns going to be able to knock him out before he gets to land those kicks and punches? The way I see things now is I would prefer to bet Thompson inside of distance here. I think it's just his speed is just gonna be superior to Burns, and I think it's gonna basically knock him out with a kick, one of these taekwondo kicks or karate kicks. I don't know what you exactly what he's into, but there's some kind of crazy stuff he can pull off.
He's a karate man.
Yeah, if that's just karate, then I didn't see many of those in kicks in Karate Kid. They are kicks like Horang is throwing in Tekken, and he's into Taekwondo.
Horang, yeah, he wasn't he?
Yeah, you can get Thompson at 4.5 by KO. Interestingly enough, I looked at Thompson's record, and his last knockout was actually in 2016 against Johnny Hendricks. So, considering he's probably one of the best strikers in the UFC, he rarely gets a knockout. I think because he's so patient and just happy to kind of outpoint fighters, that he rarely gets a knockout. But I think this is one of those fights where you could see a Thompson KO, just because Gilbert Burns might be rushing in a little bit, trying very hard to get that takedown and maybe catch him with something on the way in. What are your thoughts on this one, Ryan?
Yeah, so I'm on the other side of this. I've got Burns I've got him at like 2.54. So I think he's come in a little bit now, but there was a lot of money that came on Wonderboy, and I can see why people are backing Wonderboy. He will have on the feet, he will have an edge. He's obviously very fluid. He's very good with his in and out movement. But the last few fights, he's had guys that are not going to try and grapple with him. Like Luke was pretty happy to stand with him, and Jeff Neal, wanted a striking fight, so he didn't really have to worry about the threat of a takedown. But if you go back and look at his fights with guys like Woodley, he wasn't throwing as many kicks, because when he did, Woodley took him down and could dominate him. And Burns can do exactly the same thing. Burns is very explosive as well. If you go back and watch Burns' fight with Woodley, he was able to explode in and hit a double leg on Woodley. And Woodley's a really hard guy to take down. So Burns has obviously got kind of the wrestling chops to get guys down. He's gotten some natural power as well. We saw him hurt Usman. We saw him finish Maia. So, he's going to, even on the feet, he's not dead. He's got some natural power. If he can catch Thompson, kind of like Pettis caught him, he can be put out. He's also got a pretty decent kicking game as well. He's got decent leg kicks, and that could be a way. If he can land a few of them, he can also slow Thompson's movement. So I think it's quite like an even fight here, which is why when the odds did go out on Burns to like 2.5, I thought it was quite a good play. And it's one of the things that Jonas says, like, about football and stuff, like you want to oppose kind of the common narrative. So the majority of people think Wonderboy is going to win this fight. Like Burns is coming off a KO loss, which never looks good. Well, Wonderboy is coming off like one of his best ever performances. So I think that's why the odds are how they are. And another thing that Burns has done is he's brought in a guy called Raymond Daniels, who fights in Bellator, and he's a super high level Taekwondo karate guy. He's got kind of similar movement, and he's got the same kind of unorthodox striking style that Thompson has, and apparently he's been training a lot with him. So he's in this style somewhat. I mean, Thompson's not going to be exactly the same, obviously, but he's going to get a feel for it. And I just think it might be a little, one of them situations where maybe Burns is being a little bit undervalued and Thompson's been a bit overvalued, because the guy's 38 years old as well, and with his style, which relies on reflexes, I just think, as time goes by, there's going to be a fight where he drops off as well. So possibly this is it.
Yeah. No, I backed Burns at 2.5, mate. So I'm on your side too. And it is, for me, it's purely a value, just a price play. Because if I had to put my life on who's going to win this fight, I'd say Woodley. Oh, sorry, Woodley. Fuck me, I'm dead already. Wonderboy. Just because, yeah, I mean, he should be favourite going into this one, but the price on Burns at one point during the week, 2.5, 2.54, like you said, I think that's way too wide. I think I'd probably take Burns down to like 2.45. Think that is a decent play. Actually, AJ Sportsbets has written here, Ryan, what's the lowest you would go on Burns? He still reckons 2.4 might be some good value.
Yeah, I'd still take 2.4. I wouldn't go much lower than that, but I'd be happy to take that.
Yeah, I was going to get up with Pinnacles.
Do you guys see Burns taking this by points, or do you just see him being able to finish him? What do you think is his best?
I think for both fighters, I would say that both their best chances are by points. This Wonderboy's pretty hard to get out of there. I don't know. What do you think, Ryan?
I don't know, because it's like if Burns can get a few takedowns, then I'm pretty sure he's going to keep Thompson there, and then it becomes how good is Thompson on the ground. But that's not something we've seen too much. I mean, Woodley kind of just held him down. I wouldn't expect Thompson to get up, so it would be up to Thompson really, whether he would just kind of lay there and accept the position, not try and give up a submission and just wait for the next round, or he'd try and scramble and like Burns would get him. I mean, I don't know. I'm quite happy with the money line. I'll be honest, I've not even looked at Burns to win inside the distance. So I don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah, I just see like Bet365, for example, has 433 on both inside distance and decision. So of course, if you look at those prices, it's better to go by money line if you favor them pretty much equally.
Yeah, you can get 6 at Genting Bet for Gilbert Burns by decision. So I'd probably bet that if you have a Genting Bet account, that's a pretty decent outlier in the market. But yeah, we'll see. It should be a really fun fight, and it's got huge implications on the welterweight division and who could fight Usman next after Covington.
I mean, there are some good bets you can get on there. Like for example, if you have a PokeStars account, you can bet Burns round 3 or decision at 433, so you get the third round as a free roll. I see they have Burns by decision at 5, but that's slashed out for a reason. Doesn't see that too often. So if you're mixing like some bits and pieces there, you can get on better, I guess, also. But interesting. I think like it's very hard to predict this fight. Like nobody really knows how good is Thompson's takedown defense. Is he going to be able to land some of this powerful? But you saw it like with Usman also in Burns. Burns had a lot of power and it was so close to knocking out Usman. But it's something different fighting Usman and Thompson. With Usman, he's okay to stand there and exchange some punches compared to Thompson, who's just impossible to hit. Even though he's 38 and he was 37, I think the last time we were talking about this fight, he was just surpassing what everyone expected of him. And he seems to be super like working hard. He seems to know where he's at and being very humble with like, he went out and said like, before when I first started, I just wanted to become a champion. And that's all my goal. Now I changed and I just want to improve myself. And I think if I keep on improving myself, I will end up being a champion eventually. So I do think he is really motivated and has been working the hardest he could or he can. But at the same time, the prices for Burns, I can see it being attractive. I think like Thompson not being able or haven't had a KO within since 2016. I do think like some of these outliers could be a good way to go on about this. Like with Burns being really pushy, trying to force that takedown, and that could easily lead to a KO. But like I said, it's fun. We disagree. We'll see. I'm not going to be result oriented and ask how did it go last time we disagreed, Ryan.
I don't remember, to be honest.
I think it was Paul Craig versus.
Hill. Oh yeah, you got.
Yeah.
That was a
we
nice
don't
hit.
talk about that, man.
No, I'm joking. No,
I wanted to say one more thing on Thompson though, because and I'm gonna throw it back at you, mate. Is that Jeff Neal? Like he's a terrific fighter, obviously, but I think going into that fight, or at least in the past, he's been a part-time fighter and he has another job on the side. And I think if you're fighting, someone like Stephen Thompson, you like literally need to spend weeks, months, like focusing on that style. Do what Gilbert Burns has done and bring someone like Raymond Daniels in, because this is something like you'll probably never see before, like like Lyoto Machida kind of style. So, I think for someone like Jeff Neal, like Wonderboy, I think he's going to always make Wonderboy look really good because it's a style that someone who's kind of a part-time fighter, or at least not putting this, not having this as a full-time job, like it's kind of a nightmare scenario because it's something you'll never see probably ever again in your fighting career, or at least very rarely.
Do you think, I guess it's very hard to compare something to this, but do you guys think there's any similarities in this fight and the fight we saw with Adesanya and Vettori? But of course,
I'd say Burns is a better striker than Vettori.
Yeah.
He's probably a better grappler as well if he gets it to the ground. But Vittori's probably got better takedowns. Don't know though, but it is fairly similar.
Yeah. I'd say I was going to say I think like Burns is probably a bit more advanced, and I'd probably say Wonderboy is not as good as Adesanya. I mean, it's like pound for pound kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the fact, like, I was just shocked of the takedown attempts Vettori went for. It wasn't explosive enough to pull anything off, and Adesanya just were in full control the whole fight. And but I don't know. It's so hard to predict how this is gonna go. I mean, if you knew, then it would be easy to place your bets, I guess. Because then, if you knew how they would play out or how big the edges would be standing and takedown and stuff like that, you could take it down to like 1.25 if Thompson was the favorite, and maybe like 1.4 to Burns. So it's gonna be fun to see how it plays out first rounds. Who do you think edges in the later rounds?
I think it just depends how the fight's going, isn't it? I think what you said was like the perfect point. Hey, like this could literally be a fight where you go, how is Burns not 1.3 if he gets him down straight away and keeps him there the whole fight? And you could say the same thing about Wonderboy. Like, what if Gilbert Burns like literally cannot lay a hand on him and get anywhere near a takedown? So the odds either way, the odds are probably completely wrong on this fight because you can see it being so lopsided in one direction.
Entertaining it's going to be, at least. That's I look forward to it. Like, this card, it must be one of the most interesting cards in ages, with all of the fights having so much like things which is basically impossible to predict.
Yeah,
there's a lot of fights.
I think if you're an MMA nerd, this fight's like, it's lots of fun because it's a real stylistic matchup. So it's going to be really interesting to see who can implement their game plan. But I guess we got to talk about the big one, Jonas. You've been waiting all day to talk about this one, mate. I mean, you were very worried that we weren't going to talk about it, but I've got some good news for you, mate. We are going to talk about it.
Okay.
Dustin Poirier is at like he can get better than this, I think, but 1.85. I think he can get better at. If you're going to bet these fights, Pinnacle are just taking such a massive hold on them. You're going to get much better odds there, and Conor McGregor's at 2.15. You can probably get higher than that too. So I'll go to you first, Jonas, because you're so excited to talk about your number one man, Conor McGregor. How do you think he's going to go?
I was on Dustin in the previous fight, so I don't know. But
I'm just trying to frame you as a casual, mate.
No, it's gonna be. You never know what Conor is gonna bring, but I feel like every time Conor is like having the walk up and is ready to fight, I get a pulse watching it because I know this is like, it's so exciting and you never know what's gonna happen, and you always know he can knock out whoever from the most awkward angles. So for this one, I'm super excited to see. Is it going to go down the same way as the first fight, with a lot of leg kicks from Poirier, basically securing him the fight? You saw like some of the movements and how Conor was, in my opinion, close to finishing him in the first 2 rounds, and just not being able to stand in the third. It was the 3rd round KO, right? Now I kind of lose my mind again.
Second.
So he got, but in the beginning of the second, he was looking like the better fighter, and like the way I see, like the value I can see in this would be Conor to knock him out either in first or second round. I probably would prefer second round with those prices. You can get Conor second round at over 8, which I think it's a long shot. And if you're planning on getting pissed and you want a fun bet to sweat, second round KO Conor would be your mug bet.
That's not a fun bet to sweat.
Second round, like he's just gonna pick him apart in the first round and give it to him the second. And if he doesn't, you have a bottle of proper 12 ready to down. So that's a fun way to sweat it. And then you won't remember how it finished anyways if you finish that bottle in the 3rd and 4th round. So in my opinion, that's one way you can go on about this. And but the prices, it's really flipped. Like the first fight, you could get over 3 or was it 4? I think you could get 4 on Poirier.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Imagine going from like 4 in odds to being a favorite, and I think there's always a lot of doubt about Conor McGregor. Is he focusing on other things? What's his motivation to do this? Do you think he honestly would be in here if he doesn't want to, or didn't want to become a champion and is willing to put in the work to become a champion?
Yeah,
I doubt it. But let's face it, from cardio point of view, like the longer this fight goes on, the more it's going to favor Poirier. But the movement and the way just Conor moves in the ring and the way he strikes, I think he can easily finish him by KO in the first or second round. At the prices, I would prefer second round, but again, long shot with high odds. Gonna fasten my seatbelt and hope for a second round KO for this one.
All right, there we go. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, so I see it a similar way, really. Like in the first, I mean, we did a pod for the first fight, and we said that Poirier is very hittable, and McGregor's kind of the more dynamic. He's the cleaner striker, is the better striker. And if you watch that second fight, that kind of was playing out. McGregor was landing the cleaner shots and stuff, but obviously he wasn't prepared for those calf kicks, and that kind of slowed him down. And then he did eat some counters, and it was a fight that turned very quickly because Conor was kind of controlling it, and then suddenly he wasn't controlling it, and he just lost very quickly. But coming into this fight, I know that it seems like he's taking it more seriously. Like you could see in the first fight, he was kind of like buddying up to Poirier, and I think he underestimated him. I think, and I've seen that he said this might just be an excuse that he'd been preparing for to fight Pacquiao in boxing, so he'd spent like the last 8 months boxing, and then he'd had like a quick. I think he had like a 3-month camp preparing for Poirier, and I think we kind of saw that because he was very boxing heavy. And the thing with Conor is as well, he's a guy with a big ego, and like you say, he's got all the money in the world, so he doesn't need to fight. But he's fighting because he wants to get that loss back. And I think ego can be bad in some situations, but in this situation, I think ego can be it can be a good thing in that it can really drive him and make him prepare properly for this. So I think. The value this time is probably on McGregor. Like Jonas said, the odds have flipped so much that I don't think we'll see exactly the same fight. He'll have drilled probably several different ways to try and counteract those calf kicks, and I'm sure that he'll be able to do it a lot better in this fight. So I took like William Hill boosted McGregor to win in round 1 and 2 to odds of 4, but I don't know if that's still available, so I backed that. And like. Jonas said as well that McGregor round 2 props pretty good. But something else I've done as well was this is like a pre-fight trade, so you can only do this if it's on Betfair. But I laid Poirier at like 1.81 this morning, and then I will look to back Poirier before the fight because I think a lot of McGregor money will come in closer to fight time. I think you might see like Poirier at like 1.9. It could even swing back and be around even. So I think if you can still lay Poirier. Or you can back McGregor. Actually, it might be easier for people to understand if I say back McGregor at like 2.2 and then look to trade out before the fight on Betfair Exchange. And you probably get like, I don't know, 2.1. I would imagine. I can't see McGregor's odds going any bigger. So, yeah, I think that's like a good little way to make some money pre-fight.
Yeah, it's such a great point, mate. And AJ Sportsbets says, is it worthwhile leaving backing McGregor until 5 minutes before the ring walks? I would say, yeah. Oh, he's just corrected himself, backing Poirier.
Yeah, the opposite.
I was going to say I would do the opposite. But the biggest thing I think today is or whatever time it is for people in the world, but I think in about 4 hours there's a press conference between McGregor and Poirier. So I think if you're going to back McGregor, I would do it now, or at least in the next couple of hours, because just from experience watching the markets, normally it's after a press conference or, once it goes viral, some of the things that McGregor's going to say, he's obviously very good on the microphone and he's going to convince some people that he's going to win the fight. So I think if you're going to back McGregor, yeah, do it now. And then I'd wait as long as possible. And I think the longer you wait, you'll probably get better odds on Poirier, especially like as McGregor's walking out to the cage. Like as Jonas said, it's a huge event. And I know, like, your shrewd or your non-shrewd bettors aren't going to bet on Pinnacle, but it only takes, one bloke who's had too many beers to jump on Pinnacle and put 50,000 euros on McGregor to win the fight.
I was going to mention it. A guy did that on Betfair. We backed Kennedy in Chukwu, was it last week or something?
Yeah.
We had him at 1.9, but some guy on Betfair put 30k down on Kennedy in Chukwu, and he backed him from something like 1.75 to 1.4. So you can take advantage of that type of stuff sometimes if you can see it. It was really funny. I was just watching the screen. I was like, "What the hell's happened here?"
The old Wales back.
It was, hi.
Yeah. I think the other thing that people aren't really talking about, though, when it comes to Poirier, is he was able to take down Conor, and that was the great. I think the smartest thing he did in that fight was he stemmed so much of that early Conor. That's when he's at his best in the early rounds, and he was just able to stem that flow with just landing a takedown, and he didn't really do much with it, but he just held him there for a couple of minutes, I think it was. And it maybe winds down his tank a little bit, and it just keeps him safe for the early parts of the fight. So the problem is Conor's got a lot to think about. He's got a lot to think about, whereas Poirier really only has to worry about, he's got a lot to worry about on the feet, but it's not like he has to worry about a takedown or anything like that. So I don't know. There's so many ways the fight could go. The way I've looked at it, I got Conor round 1 knockout at, I think it was at 6.5 or 7. So I think that's, it's too big. I know I took that last fight, but I think that should be a lot closer to maybe, I think it's at, what is it, at 5s maybe now, or maybe it's at 4 point something. So I think if you can get Conor round 1 KO at 6.5, 7, I think it's a pretty decent bet to take. And then I'd be looking to live bet Poirier if you can kind of see that he's taking most of McGregor's shots in the first round, maybe the second round, and that Poirier can come back and do a similar job in the second.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to get those prices anymore. I haven't seen him over 5 for the first round anymore.
Hey, McGregor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw 7.5 for round 2. It was 7 earlier on in the week, but it looks like that's come in as well. So.
Yeah,
but I do think we often see that in the first round they are feeling each other out a lot more, and it's in the second round they actually start going for things more. But again, it's Conor. He doesn't give a fuck about anything, so not preserving too much cardio is just gonna, because he knows if he goes for it and it works, he's gonna win, and he's gonna win in an extraordinary way also, which matters for someone like him, I guess.
I've heard a few people talk about the fight going the distance that are really, I think it's at a pretty decent price. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Because the kind of a lot of people's arguments is the fact that they fought each other twice now. They both earned a knockout each, and they might be a little bit more hesitant, a bit more patient throughout the fight, and that it could go to a decision. I mean, I seriously cannot see that happening. But I mean, it obviously has happened with Conor before with the Nate Diaz fight, and Poirier's gone 5 rounds a couple of times. So, any thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a possibility, but I don't know, with the way Poirier fights, defensively, he's not that great. You see him go to war, with Eddie Alvarez. He had 2 wars with him. Dan Hooker, he had a war with him. Most of the kind of stand-up fights he's in, are a war. And then, we've seen with McGregor, in the last fight, he folded quite quickly, didn't he? So, I mean, it could do, but I don't know. It's not one I'd really want to take, to be honest.
All right. Love it. Even got Haru. He's coming from two different profiles here. He goes, "Hi guys, are you teaching everyone something good?" Not really, mate. We normally just go for the old. We normally try and lay everything that we say here. Hopefully, people get on board. But yeah. All right. I think we've just about covered it all, fellas. We've gone through, how many fights is that? About 8 or 9 fights. I mean, what a stellar effort from you fellas.
It's another quick thing though, that the Sean O'Malley versus the Moutinho fight. I don't know what you think about that, Ryan, but I think like the previous fight we saw with Sean O'Malley, he won by a KO, and it was okay the way he won. But you also, I think I could see some hints of his leg getting hurt again. And the question is like, is it some value in backing the other guy when you know that he's struggling badly with his legs? The fact like Moutinho has only had 10 days to prepare this fight though. So
yeah, I've not looked too much, but from what I heard is that Moutinho's, is he coming up a weight class or something as well? Because he took it such short notice. I didn't look too much into it because the odds were not that appealing really. But I mean, possibly. I mean, you know, if you are going to back that Moutinho guy, you probably back him to win inside the distance because, I don't think he's going to win it any other way.
O'Malley
he basically
picked by Almeida a couple times, didn't he? But he pretty much he pieced up Almeida for most of that fight.
So the thing about Moutinho, he went out and he said like, well, I might not win. I might, I'm not going to say I'm going to win, but I'm not going to say I'm going to lose. What I'm guaranteeing is the fight of the night. So it sounds like he's obviously just going to have to go for it. You know, you get up on the big stage fighting a big name like Sean O'Malley. It's a lot of upside, and going for to increase the variance and knowing like this guy who's been struggling with his legs. Of course, he's going to be struggling with to take care of the reach disadvantage he's going to be at. And I don't know. I just think the price is very long for something, and you have some extra equity there with Sean O'Malley's leg being, what can I say, a bit broken and not very durable. So, but that's why basically I'm betting on a Sean O'Malley, regardless of like if the price is very appealing, or would be okay, I guess, if I knew he was going to be able to stand the whole fight. But the fact like you're holding your breath every time he throws a kick, and especially if he throws a leg kick, I'm just not going to be able to bet that.
I mean, there will be a time to. There's definitely going to be a time to fade O'Malley. It's just when he steps up again and faces someone decent, which hopefully he should do in the next fight. Like he needs to, start fighting some of those top 10, top 5 guys, doesn't he?
It is pretty ridiculous how they're giving him like easy fights all the time.
Thomas Almeida is pretty decent. I mean, he lost to Rivera, and then they gave him Thomas Almeida, so it's a pretty good, fighter to go back on. I mean, they didn't give him this bloke, did they? It was a fight falling out. I can't remember who he was fighting before this. I can't remember.
I mean, I just think they have been giving him easier fights than what they could have given him.
Yeah, and he had all those layoffs too, I think, through injury earlier in his career. But yeah. All right. I will. Haru's just said he's going to the fight on Saturday. You bloody...
Lucky man, I'd love to be there.
How dare you, mate? That is just, you can't even tell people that. That's just criminal. That's so mean. Yeah, you lucky bugger. Good stuff. All right, let's get into our best bets for UFC 264. I'll let you go first, Ryan. Where are you going to take me?
I've not even thought about it, to be honest. Let's have a look.
Do you want to go, Jonas?
I'll take.
Sorry.
I'll take Ryan Hall. I'll take the Ryan Hall one. Ryan Hall inside the distance. You can get like above 5 inside the distance, or if you can get like 6 for submission, I think that's a good bet.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, going against the record and going for a Shuma KO. At like if you get 5.5 or something for that, I think should be a good bet. I just hope that he wants to finish for once and prove it. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. This guy Zhalgas, Zhumagulov, he's fought 3 times in the UFC so far. And he fought on, I'm going to get this right.
He's fought a really good competition,
yeah. He fought on the UFC 257, which I think was the previous previous fight for Conor and Poirier, and he fought on 251, which was Usman Masvidal. So he's fought on like big cards all the time. I guess having 2 losses of those, it's time for him to make some justice and show that he is a better fighter, and the fact that he's been robbed twice should lead him more to go for the finish and not leave it to the judges, especially being the far superior fighter.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just laughing at the comment here in the chat. If you guys have been, if anyone's been following our live streams on the Euros, Oligini is just, he must be Italian because he loves his Italians, and he's always bagging Nigel and George when they're talking about England, and now he's sending in compliments. Oh, it's absolute gold. I love it. But yeah, we'll be back in about 45 minutes with the Euros preview. But our best bet for me, I think it is I like the Yaozong bet at 2.3, but it's a bit rude of me to give that as my best bet because I don't think you'll be able to get that price anymore. So why don't I go with Niko, Michel Pereira double chance by KO or decision at 1.88 on Ladbrokes there. So I mean, maybe you go find another book and they'll give you something better than that. Also, I think Burns at 2.5 is a good price play, but I don't know if you'll be able to get that either. Anyway, I've just thrown about 20 out there, but that's all right. Pretty new at this.
Stick them all together. Put an accumulator on. You'll do all right, won't you?
I mean, it's a guaranteed thing, mate. It's a guaranteed thing. You can find these gentlemen on Twitter at SM Sports Trader for Ryan and at Jonas Jonas Gjel. Good luck trying to spell that on Twitter. And you can check out Ryan's blog / website too. Terrific read. Follow his journey from $0, I guess, all the way up to £1 million. Yeah. So very, very good stuff there. So smartsportstrader.com. As always, fellas, we're going to finish with the UFC quiz question. Dustin Poirier won his first 3 UFC fights. Can you name one of those opponents that he beat? I'll let you go first, Jonas.
I can't. I would... I have no idea.
Yep. And you, Ryan, what are you going to go for, mate?
I know he beat Holloway early on in Holloway's career, so I'm going to go with that. I don't know if it was in his first 3 fights, but I know it was early on. Yeah,
I got you, mate. It was his 4th win, so...
that was it. I knew it was early on, but...
I thought I'd get one of you with that. He beat Josh Grisby, Jason Young, and Pablo Garza. That were his first 3 fights, and his 4th fight was against Max Holloway, who he beat too. So started off his career with an impressive 4-fight win streak. So well done, Dustin. We'll definitely be tuning in to see if he can nab another big victory this weekend. All right. That just about does us, fellas. Thank you very much for joining. As always, we will be live in 45 minutes, as I said before, previewing Euros 2021 final between England and Italy. Huge day on the channel, so tune in for that in 45 minutes. But thanks for listening, everyone. Please do a quick rate and review of the podcast and subscribe to us wherever you listen on your podcasting. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talked about today, more so the value betting ones in every other sport other than MMA, start a free week trial of TradeMate Sports and begin your value betting journey. How good, fellas? We'll enjoy the fights. And hopefully see you guys for the next pay-per-view card, which I don't know when that is.
No idea, man.
Right.
No idea. See you later, guys.
See you, fellas.
See you, man.